Y seguimos hablando hoy de inversión. Lo hemos hecho hoy porque Javier Luengo se ha ido hasta pues el lugar de la presentación que ha realizado hoy, lazard, gestion, y ha hablado con su Head of High Yield, que es Alexia Latorre, y han hablado de cómo está el mercado, de dónde se puede invertir ahora mismo, así que vamos a recuperar esa entrevista que hacía hoy nuestro compañero Javi.
Fondos de bonos, tanto en grado de inversión como en high yield, han registrado récord de captaciones de capital durante la primera recta de este 2023, que ya poco a poco va acabando, con cierta incertidumbre por parte de los bancos centrales en esta orilla del Atlántico, pero también en la americana, con la Reserva Federal como foco de atención. Del rendimiento de los bonos, del high yield, vamos a hablar en los próximos minutos. Lo vamos a hacer de la mano de Alexia Latorre, directora de high yield en la frères gestion. Thank you so much for being in Negocios Televisión. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
How do you see the current economic situation?
Yeah, we think that in Europe we are already maybe in a recession. While in the US we have been surprised by the resilience of the economy. It was thanks to the consumer who had spent a lot of money in the economy, but we think that the situation is going to reverse in the coming months. So that's why we think that we are at the end of the economic cycle, and we expect that the US economy will enter into recession in the coming months.
In the middle of these market tensions we are living in, with rising benchmark bond yields, what is the momentum in high yield?
It's true that high yield has registered a very good performance since the beginning of the year, thanks to spreads tightening of around 80 basis points. So that's why today spreads are at around 440 basis points, which is a level in fact below the historical average. And also this level of spreads means a default rate that is implied at around 3%, which is the current default rate. But the issue is that this default rate will increase in the coming months to 3.9%, according to Moody's. And so that's why we think that for all these reasons, spreads are today a bit too low for investors. But if we analyze the high yield universe through the yield today are at around 7.5%, and so it's above the historical average. That's why we have seen a lot of inflows into the asset class since the beginning of the year, because at this level of yield you are protected against spreads widening, and on top of that you could benefit from interest rates that could decrease in case of a recession.
And when the rates start to decrease?
When we will enter in recession, or at least when investors will start to price that a recession is coming. That's why we think, for example, in the 2-year US notes, we think that we are now at the peak, and because we think that recession will come soon, we think that we are at the peak in terms of interest rates in the US right now, at least on the short part of the curve.
Which one are the biggest differences between the US and the EU?
In high yield, the universe in Europe is of much better quality than the one in the US, because the average rating in Europe is BB-, while the average rating is B+ in the US. And on top of that, you have a difference in terms of sectors, where you have a bigger part of energy in the US high yield, while in the European high yield it is more diversified. And on top of that, in terms of valuation, the spreads on the US high yield is much lower than the one in the European high yield, while you have a lower quality in the US. So that's why we favor European high yield versus US high yield right now.
And in Europe, where are the biggest opportunities?
Countries. The thing is that the European high yield is very diversified in terms of countries. So the geographical criteria is not very important for European high yield. In fact, it's more linked. The performance is more linked to the sectors. For example, we are still overweight on transportation, on leisure, because we think that the earnings in the third quarter will still be positive. There will be a positive trend in the earnings in these sectors, while, for example, we are still underweight on the real estate because we don't expect any positive news in the coming months on this sector.
Alexia Latorre, thank you so much for being in Negocios.
Muchas gracias.
Bueno, pues interesante entrevista.